Have you seen this story going around online? It is spreading like wildfire, and for a really good reason. It's this modern fable of betrayal so cold and revenge so complete, it's honestly a work of art. It's the story of the secret owner, and today we're going to break down exactly why this narrative of karmic justice feels so incredibly powerful.
It always kicks off with a punch to the gut like this one. You get this moment of just stunning betrayal, but then there's that quiet promise of a massive reversal. The protagonist gets cast out, right? Treated like a tenant in their own home, but they're holding on to one little secret that's about to change absolutely everything.
So the first act of this whole drama is always defined by the family's tidal wave of entitlement. I mean, they don't just ask for things, they issue decrees. They operate with the absolute certainty of monarchs, completely convinced the property, and by extension, the protagonist, is just there to serve them.
And what's really interesting is how they establish their so-called power. It's not through any legal right, that's for sure. It's just through sheer volume and aggression. They try to create their own reality through yelling, believing if they just say something is theirs loudly enough, the universe will just bend to their will. And then, of course, comes the emotional artillery. The protagonist isn't just an obstacle anymore. Oh, no. Now they're framed as selfish and cruel, just for, occupying a space that is legally theirs. Their very existence is presented as a major inconvenience to the family's grand plans.
You have to understand this. The family is not negotiating. In their minds, it's a done deal. The house belongs to the favorite sibling, and our protagonist is just a piece of furniture that needs to be cleared out before the real owners can move in. Their confidence is absolute, and it is going to be their undoing.
Okay, so let's move into Act 2. This is where the story reveals its central fatal flaw, this huge gap between the family's loud, emotional fantasy and the protagonist's quiet, factual power.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, what does the family have? Loud voices, social pressure, emotional manipulation, sheer confidence. On the other side, the protagonist has notarized signatures, a property deed, bank statements, the law. This is a battle of opinions versus facts. And we all know how that's going to end.
So while the family is busy shouting on the front lawn, probably planning how they're going to redecorate, our hero is doing something very different. They're quietly consulting the documents, confirming the one fact that's basically a kill switch for their family's entire world.
And that brings us to the detonation, the moment we've all been waiting for. This is when the protagonist's silent preparation collides head-on with the family's loud ignorance, and their carefully constructed reality just shatters into a million pieces. See, the protagonist never gets into a shouting match. Their approach is way more methodical, more intelligent. It's like watching a chess grandmaster. They let the family overplay their hand, they gather their proof, and then they wait for that one precise moment to strike with maximum, undeniable, legally binding force. And this is how the bubble bursts. It's not with another family argument. It's with the cold, impartial voice of an authority figure, a police officer, a lawyer, explaining that, well, their feelings don't actually supersede the law. This is the moment their entire fantasy of control just dies, right there on the front doorstep.
Now, what's really fascinating here is that often the protagonist's claim isn't even on the original deed. Maybe they saved the family home from foreclosure, making every single payment for years. Well, this establishes what's called equitable ownership, which gives them a powerful, legally recognized claim to the very property they saved. And now, the reckoning. After the reversal, the narrative shifts to the consequences. The family, having gambled everything on their own arrogance, must finally face the bill for what they've done.
And the consequences are never abstract. They are priced out right down to the last dollar. This number, for example. That's the 35% equity stake one protagonist was legally awarded after proving she had single-handedly paid the mortgage for 7 years on a house her parents tried to sell out from under her. And a financial hit like that is never the end of the story. It's just the first domino in this spectacular collapse. The legal defeat leads to an eviction, which leads to public humiliation, which often leads to complete financial ruin as their entire house of cards just comes crashing down. Their shock is really the core of their humiliation. The family is genuinely baffled that the rules they chose to ignore could actually apply to them. It's the rage of someone who believed they were immune to the laws of reality suddenly finding themselves pinned down by them. So this brings us to the final, and probably most important question. Why is this specific fantasy so popular? What is the deep psychological chord that these stories of quiet, legal revenge strike in all of us?
I mean, really, think about it. In an age of endless noise, of my truth versus your truth, these stories offer something else entirely. They are so much more than a simple revenge plot. They tap into a fundamental fantasy about the power of objective reality. That desire to see arrogance meet an immovable, notarized, legally binding fact.
And this just illustrates the payoff perfectly. It's justice for anyone who has ever been underestimated. It's the vicarious thrill of watching cold, hard facts completely vaporize loud, baseless emotions. It's a fantasy of security, that with the right documents, you are untouchable. And most of all, it's the deep, profound satisfaction of seeing toxic entitlement finally face real, inescapable consequences. This quote captures the essence of the protagonist's power. It doesn't come from winning an argument. It comes from holding a truth so solid it requires no defense. Her silence is powerful because it rests on a foundation of fact that all the noise in the world cannot shake.
So it leaves us with a final thought. In a world just saturated with loud opinions and emotional arguments, this story is a monument to the power of quiet, documented truth. It asks us to consider, what is the solid ground you're standing on? What is the deed, the receipt, the undeniable fact that you hold?